Awesome. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and taking some time out of what we know are your busy lives to be with us and allow us to share something that we love with you, and that's Beyond Akeela. This is going to be our 12th summer of Beyond Akeela, and we're really proud of how it's grown and evolved over the years and the outcomes that we've created for so many families. So we're really looking forward just to being able to share all of that with you this evening. And just like we do at camp, we always try to do our best to preview what you can expect. So tonight, you can expect about 45 minutes to an hour or so, pending Q&A, of information about Beyond Akeela. We're going to try and share as much as we can without physically being at camp. What our mission is, philosophy, how we do things. You get a sense of what the camp activity is like. Hopefully you get a sense for really how strong our community is through some of the imagery and the words that we share with you this evening. But goal overall is to paint a really great picture of what Beyond Akeela looks like over the summer for you, so you can assess if it feels like the right type of community for your teen out there. Like I said, there will be some Q&A. Our assistant director, Prat, is also on the call. She's going to introduce herself in just a minute, but she will be fielding questions, and then we'll have a break sort of halfway through, and then another break at the end, obviously, for Q&A. So if you have questions, something just pops into your head, feel free just to put it in the chat. You can do it privately to Prat. It's Beyond Akeela, Pratishta, Prat, or you can send me a message as well, or just a public message, and we'll make sure we get those questions answered for you. And so with that, I'm going to start our little presentation here. And the first thing we'd like to do is just introduce ourselves a little bit and sort of share a little bit more about who we are. So this is my family here. That's my wife, Kristen, and she's also our co-director of Beyond Akeela, and our two boys, Simon and Arlo. They are 2 in this picture, I believe, and will be turning 4 this summer. So they are bundles of joy and keep us on our toes all the time. And we're very fortunate to have nannies who help us with them over the summer. That allows us to do our job as camp directors. But we live in South Philadelphia with our dog, Lainey. Basically, our life revolves around going to the playground and finding coffee shops, and that's what we really love to do as a family. But Kristen's been with Beyond Akeela since 2015. I've been with Akeela since 2009, really since one of the first years of Akeela as a whole. We both met at camp, fell in love at camp, and have made camp really a big part of my career. It's my year-round life, and Kristen is a school counselor here in Philadelphia for middle school students, and has educational background in counseling psychology, mental health counseling, that she brings her expertise into camp. And my experience in this world has all been through camp, has many years at Akeela, haven't missed a summer since 2009, and have really fallen in love with the work that we get to do and relationships we get to build with teens and families. So thank you all again for being here. And tonight we are very lucky to have Prat joining us. So I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Prat. My full name is Pratishta, but either way works. I was a head advisor at Beyond Akeela last year, and I just fell in love with it. And I'm so thrilled to be able to be part of the community longer term. I feel like just the relationships that we form with staff and campers and everything just makes me super excited. I'm currently pursuing my master's in social work at NYU, and I'll be graduating this May, and I'll also be getting licensed. Before I started my social work journey, I was really fortunate to have years of experience doing research on neurodiversity at UCLA, and that's what got me to my social work journey. So I'm really excited to bring some of that experience into the work here at Akeela. And outside of college and things, my academic interests, I love reading. I'm really passionate about mindfulness and spirituality. I also love exploring restaurants in New York City. And I love being outdoors and spending as much time as I can get in this winter weather outdoors.
Awesome. Yes, not climbing Mount Washington last weekend, but hopefully being outdoors in other nice settings. So awesome. Thanks, Prat. Wonderful. So we will get started just with some really quick facts to sort of get the lay of the land a little bit. We're going to start really big picture, and we'll start to funnel down throughout the course of the evening. So that's sort of how the flow of things is going to go. So Camp Akeela was founded in 2008, and then Beyond Akeela was born out of Camp Akeela. Camp Akeela is our traditional summer camp program for 9 to 16-year-olds in Vermont. Very much traditional New England summer camp setting, cabins in the woods, the whole nine. We really wanted to create something that was a little more age appropriate, essentially, for our older teens and teens who are aging out of Camp Akeela, and that's where Beyond Akeela started in 2011. Has taken a few different iterations, but really has sort of hit its zone, I think, the past 5 or so years in the college campus model, and that's what we'll talk a lot more about this evening. We do 2 summer sessions each year, between 50 to 60 teens in each session. And we're really fortunate to work with some amazing, dedicated staff every summer. As you guys know, Prat, we just were fortunate to meet her last year, and now she's going to be able to work year-round with us, which we feel so grateful for. We bring in people, though, from a variety of different backgrounds in education, social work, speech-language pathologists, or those students who are studying those degree paths to come in to camp and work with us. We have a professional leadership team, a registered nurse on staff, so a really great group of people that we get to work with each summer. Currently, we're located at Franklin Pierce University in Rindge, North Carolina. New Hampshire. I say currently, we have an exciting potential opportunity to move our campus this summer to a new location at Curry College, just in Milton, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. So that's something we're going to know more about in the next week or so. Again, it's a really exciting opportunity, one that we're looking forward to exploring more. What you see today and hear today is not going to be materially affected by any move that we do. Really, what you're going to see, the activities, trips, things like that are not going to change drastically based on any of that. And then lastly, I think a misconception sometimes about college prep programs or college readiness programs is that they're all academic, and we're not. We're very far from academic. There's no classwork at Beyond Akeela, no lecture halls. That's a really important thing for us. What we find our teens are excited to work more on, and some skills that are really essential for college, and that unstructured time in college that we all know is a big part of college life. Social skills and navigating roommate relationships, executive functioning, managing this new course load and all this time that you have, staying organized and advocating yourself, making sure you're getting the support that you need, getting the accommodations that you deserve and are owed. Those are the things that we want our teens to be practicing in our setting. So again, it's not going to be an academic type of environment, even though we are on a college campus. All right, and so I think that the most important thing that we can probably take away from tonight, besides maybe some nitty-gritty details if you're more interested in those, but I really think community is the big word for us. That's what sets us apart from other programs out there, as well as that we're first and foremost focused on building this really connected community of teens. And the reason I think that's so important is that level of community provides a certain level of comfort for our teens to take more positive social risks, to step out of their comfort zone, to try new things. And that's where the learning occurs. It's not when we sit up and say, hey, this is what we're doing today, and doing some sort of like discussion about time management, let's say. The real learning is going to occur when we are practicing, giving teens some practice skills, followed up with some scaffolded coaching from our really well-trained staff members. And this is the model that we use to work on everything at camp. So again, it's not going to feel like a lecture hall, praising successes and coaching and giving guidance when there are mishaps. This is not a picture from Beyond Akeela. I did steal it from the internet, but it is. I searched for bored college students, and voila, here we are. And again, this is not what you're going to experience at all at Beyond Akeela. You will never feel like this. You might be a tired teenager. We get that for sure, but you won't be looking like this, like, oh my gosh, what are they talking about now? That is not our community at all. We're much more focused on bringing the right group of neurodivergent teens together who have a lot of shared life experiences and shared goals too, shared ambitions, right? Thinking about college on the horizon and what that's going to look like for them. And this is a chance to be a stepping stone on their way to that moment. And what we really find that teens are walking away from camp with, because of this community that we've created, is a heightened sense of self-awareness and this feeling of confidence that they can succeed in a college setting away from home, and that they've practiced these different skills that are going to be really essential for college success, and overcome some hurdles that they're going to experience when they get in college too. And so those are some things we talk about a little bit more the rest of this evening. And a big part of that philosophy of what we do also comes down to freedom and choice. It's a key part of independence for us, and the independence that teens get to experience in our program. Teens are definitely ready for more freedom in their summer camp experience. They have earned that trust and respect, and the staff are trained on how to make sure they're really giving that to teens over the course of the summer. There's many, many, many opportunities for teens for independent decision-making and choice, and still within a fairly structured program. So a lot of sort of choose X, Y, or Z, and X, Y, or Z is not stay in the dorm and read a book. It's being out, being active, having a lot of agency though within our structured program that we have to offer. Lots of chances for teens also to socialize independently too, either on campus, or we go on day trips and have chances for teens to walk around independently in small downtown areas too. We'll talk more about that in our day trip section later. But lots of opportunities for teens to sort of explore their independence and really, individualize their experience too. That's what this is all about. This is not a one-size-fits-all program. There's no set curriculum that everyone is doing. Everyone gets to sort of cater their experience in a way that's going to help them make the most of the summer. There's just some more fun pictures of the experience and some opportunities for teens to sort of get out and about a little bit too. And with freedom and choice comes the ever important responsibility too. That's sort of the other side of the coin that we like to talk about with teens. And again, this is a chance for teens to really practice some critical skills that are helpful for them when they get into college. We're talking about, from life skills standpoint, opportunities for cooking for yourself, doing your own laundry, managing money over the course of the 3 weeks as well. From an executive functioning standpoint, teens are responsible for really managing their own schedule. From day one, they will get a customized schedule. You'll see what a sample of one looks like in a little bit here. And that's what they're going to be using to follow along and sort of navigate their time at camp. Obviously with some coaching and scaffolding from staff, and there's a lot of structure around it. But we're just encouraging that college-like environment and chances for teens to practice the skills that are going to help them be successful in it. Getting up in the morning, is another example. Having an alarm clock, setting it, and being on time for breakfast. That's a good thing to practice for a lot of teenagers out there, whether they're coming to Beyond Akeela or not, I'll say. Getting places on campus independently too at times. Once you sort of get the feel for campus and where things are, that's something teens will definitely be doing while they're with us at camp. And again, the goal is just to practice these skills more and more before, so they feel more like a natural part of your routine and skill set, as opposed to something that you're constantly thinking about necessarily, right? That's really our goal, is to just provide lots of opportunities for coaching for our teens to develop a lot of these skills. And if they're things that you've done before, that's great, and you feel like you have a lot of experience with, here's a chance to fine tune some of those skills. And if they're newer skills, a chance to get some more coaching with them while you're here. Speaking of coaching, so coaching is a big part of what we do, and I think that's sort of how we look at staff members at Beyond Akeela. We sort of look at them as coaches as opposed to traditional camp counselors, because we want them to scaffold back their support of teens, so that teens are working to be more independent and not dependent on staff to make decisions for them or do things for them while they're with us. As I mentioned earlier, they come in from backgrounds of special education, psychology, social work, communication sciences, counseling. They're bringing in their own experiences in those fields and their studies in those fields, their own expertise into the work that we do. And then they also have a week of training with us on how to be really great coaches, how to individualize this experience to the teens that they get to work with. And the coaching, like I said, is scaffold. So they're continuously pulling back layers of their support throughout the summer as they get to know the teens and identify the skills and goals that they're really wanting to work on. then they can, hone in on that with a teen, provide more opportunities for that teen to, work on time management, let's say. I know Pratt worked really hard with one of her campers last summer on showing up on time to things. And we got there towards the end of the summer too, is a really great success story. And some of the other campers didn't need as much of that too. So we can really individualize this it's a 1-to-3 staff ratio on the floors. So they really build a lot of great rapport with the teens to help them have successful summers with us. It's also important to know that our staff are self-selecting into a summer camp community. These are not people who want to spend their summer behind a computer, doing research in a lab. These are people who want to have fun. And they do. As you can see here, this is someone who made a wager with her cohort. She's a staff member from 2021, that if they worked towards, this set of goals that they had, and they accomplished them by X day, they would get to throw a whipped cream pie in her face at our evening meeting in front of 70 people at camp, and that's what happened. And just like fun moments like that are a big part of what makes our community really special and unique. Those are not things that you see at a lot of different programs out there when we're talking about this age group, and that's something that I think our teens really enjoy, is this connection that they get to create with these really cool mentors who really just want to have fun over the summer with them too. And yeah, so I'm going to actually stop and take a quick break here. And I saw some chats come in. I'm not sure if they're questions, but wanted to see if there were any questions out there that we could get to before we get to the next set of slides here.
We don't have any direct messages on the chat, but we do have a private one about electronics and the use of electronics at camp.
Awesome. That's a great question. So it sounds like a question about what electronics are allowed or not allowed at camp. And this is a big one. So at Beyond Akeela, teens can bring an MP3 player that has like pre-downloaded music on it, or also an e-reader that has books or access to buy books online, but that's it. No video content or video games or things like that. We do not allow cell phones, tablets, video game devices. And the reason is that those, as we all know, are really big distractors in all of our lives. We do not, it's something that is a battle essentially that we've chosen not to pick in that short 2.5-week span, because we are able to create really great outcomes without those things there. And they're going to take away drastically from our ability to do that if it's something that we consistently have to talk with people about while they're at camp. So we recognize it's not the real world, but it does help our teens have a really successful social summer with us at Beyond Akeela. Some parents may be wondering, how am I going to communicate? Or teens, you may be wondering that too. We do have laptops set up in our lounges so that you can email back and forth with home throughout the summer. So there are good opportunities still to stay connected with home. Some people like to get pictures. Family will send pictures of pets and things like that. A great way that you can still stay connected over the summer.
Yeah, of course. Our next question is, how long is each session?
It's a good question. I should have put that in the quick facts, probably. 2.5 weeks. Each session is 2.5 weeks long.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And our next question is, what our COVID vaccination requirements are going to be this year?
That's a good question. So last year it was a requirement for campers to have a vaccination unless there were unless there's like a medical exemption. Sorry, the words were eluding me there. Medical or religious exemption at the time. This year, at this time, we do not have plans for that same policy. We encourage vaccinations, but it's not something that is required per se for campers or staff to join the community.
Amazing. Our next question is, if you could mention the age groups that we work with, like our campers at Beyond Akeela, and if we accept 17-year-olds to our program.
Awesome. Yes, the next slide, that's a great segue. It's going to be all about the age groups that we work with, but yes, 17-year-olds, that's sort of right in the middle there. It's really 16 to 19 is the age range. So rising juniors, so current high school sophomores is where we start, up through one post-grad year, basically.
Awesome. And we have 2 more questions. Our second one is how to assess, they're asking how to assess whether the kid would be the best fit for Beyond Akeela and fit in our community.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's typically something that we do on individual calls with families after sessions like these. So what we'll do is we'll send a recording out to you and share that. And then if you feel like this is something that you want to pursue for your team, the best next step is really to set up an initial call for us to talk a little bit more about your teen and get to know them. And we can certainly do calls with teens directly too, if they would like to get to know us and do like a Zoom or something like this. But to just, again, mutually assess and work together if this feels like the right fit for your family and what you're looking for this summer. Just in brief, about the profile of our teens. So neurodivergent is the word we use, but we do see sort of a range of people with different diagnoses or no diagnoses, let's say. It really all is a similar profile to Asperger's. I know that doesn't exist anymore, but that's really a term that sort of has stayed with this community for a while. So teens who are, doing fine or really well academically, sort of above average to average sort of intellectual capacity for academic success, and socially sort of quirky and looking for more opportunities to have social friendships and connections, working on things like executive function and self-advocating. Those are typically the things that our teens tell us they want to work on too while they're at camp. But people who are thinking about college on the horizon and exploring different types of college options.
Our next question is, what are the guidelines that we give around dating and romantic activities during camp?
Oh, awesome. Great question. You guys are coming in with the big hitters early. I love it. Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I think teens at camp spend a lot of time with each other, and romantic feelings are definitely formed at camp every summer, and that's a very normal thing to happen. So, what our goal in sort of helping teens navigate that is making sure that they're feeling safe, making sure that they're feeling healthy, that it appears to be healthy from the outside as well, and that they also recognize that there are other people in the community for them to continue making friendships with also. And that's a really important part of the experience, though, is for teens to sometimes have a chance to explore a romantic relationship and do so in a safe, supported environment too. That's more or less, what our general policies are around that. Yeah, hopefully that answers that question. But we're not saying you can't be in a relationship by any means. That's not something we would do.
Our next question is about whether we accommodate food allergies.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have teens who come in with a variety of different dietary restrictions, whether they're allergy-based, preference-based, and we work with the campus dining center and give them a list of allergies. I mean, these are college cafeterias that work, are fully operational throughout the year, ServSafe certified. They are used to having groups of kids and teenagers over the summers as well, and sort of cater the menus to match those needs. But yes, they always serve, nut-free options is a big one. There's always, gluten-free, dairy-free options as well. Any sort of allergy that you have, information, something we'll talk about as part of the application process, and make sure that we have the right information to share with the dining services team so that we can keep your teen satiated for sure, and also safe and healthy too.
Awesome. And our last question right now on the chat is, if a teen is pretty clear about not wanting to attend college, but is interested in building life skills, will they still have a place at Beyond Akeela?
Potentially, yeah. We've had teens who have decided that college maybe, and I think college is, sometimes people say college and automatically think four-year university. And that's not necessarily what we mean when we say college. When we say college as an umbrella term, we're thinking about community colleges, vocational schools as well, gap year programs, transition programs, things like that. So, there's a variety of different options out there. I think the teens' goals have to align with what, obviously social development too, and executive function development, things like that. But yeah, we've had teens who have sort of known they probably weren't doing a traditional college route, or even like community college or something like that, and still found a successful environment at Beyond Akeela for sure.
Perfect. Those were all the questions we had on chat.
All right, great questions. Thanks everyone. love a good engaged crowd out there. That's great. Awesome. All right, we're going to keep the show rolling after that nice little break. So the person who asked that great question about the age ranges that we work with, here is your slide. So we have 3 different cohorts at Beyond Akeela. There is a foundation cohort that is rising juniors, so current sophomores, transition cohort, rising seniors, and then the post-grad cohort is primarily incoming college freshmen, or people who've done like one gap year or something, or about to do a gap year or something along those lines. The cohorts spend, they live by cohort. So each floor is its own cohort. And we'll do some activities just as a cohort and some activities as a large group, and they'll be mixed with other people in cohorts. So we're a small community, again, 50 to 60 teens. Everyone gets to know each other pretty well at camp pretty quickly, but the cohorts are better chances to sort of get to know a smaller group of people. They're each about, the foundation and post-grad groups are about 15 teens a session. Transition's a little bit bigger, but we have obviously more staff there, and we divide it up a little bit to make it into smaller groups that are a little more manageable as well. But those are, obviously the people that teens typically connect most with. They're going to be people in their cohort, but there's lots of opportunities to engage with everyone at camp through a lot of the activities, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. There's also progression at camp too. So the foundation cohort, some of the activities they are doing, so for example, like college visits. That's something we really think is important for that age group, just to start getting an idea of what's out there from a college perspective. We want to give them opportunities to sort of explore, hey, what does Landmark College feel like, which is a school of 500 people, full, is exclusively for neurodivergent learners, versus UMass Amherst, which has 30,000 people, is a massive campus, and one little block of residence halls is basically the size of Landmark College. How do you feel when you're at those different places? What are the different resources available to you? We want teens to start to explore that a little bit with that foundation cohort. The transition cohort has the opportunity to do that as well. And what's coming up next for them is the college application process in a lot of cases. That's follow that senior years when they're going to be thinking about college applications. So we'll do some application workshops with them, looking at like how to write an effective college essay, looking at the common application, getting some computers out and saying, all right, what do I actually have to do? What information do I need? And talking with admissions personnel about what they're looking for too. That's a really important part of that experience. And then for postgrads, those workshops shift more towards, all right, we're going to be in a post-secondary education setting, of some sort next year, or doing a gap year. What is that transition roadmap going to look like for that teen? So, how do they plan to stay socially connected? We're talking about, looking online, setting up sort of like what clubs they're planning to join, when the events are for these things. It really just spelling that out and having written documents at the end that say, this is how I'm going to get my accommodations. This is how I'm going to stay mentally healthy. This is who I'm going to reach out to when I'm not feeling well. All these different things, setting those parameters in place so our teens are really set up for success when they do take that next step after school. So that's where some of the progression comes in with our program. All right, and so dorm life at camp is really fun, as you can tell. I hope these pictures will show that. As I mentioned earlier, the cohorts will live on the same floor. It's a co-ed experience on the floors. And then there's common areas like lounges, computer lounges, like I mentioned earlier, that campers very much, as you see here, like to hang out in, play board games. They're usually pretty lively spaces for teens in some of our unstructured times throughout the day. There's 3 wings on each floor. So there's a male wing, a female wing, and a gender neutral wing. And then each of those wings will have its own designated bathroom too, that the people who live on that wing will share. There's staff who are going to be living sort of spread out across the floor as well. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a 1-to-3 ratio there. They live in single rooms, and obviously they're there to help teens navigate the social nuances of dorm life and dorm living. And a big part of that is roommates. So everyone at Beyond Akeela has a roommate. That's a process we put a lot of thought into before camp. We pair people up based on interests and also like sleep habits to some extent too. We don't want to pair someone who says they like to go to sleep at 9 p.m. with someone who says I go to sleep every night at 1 a.m. These are the things that we take into consideration. It's a big puzzle. It's not a perfect science. So sometimes there are little conflicts that come up throughout the summer, and that's a totally normal part of the experience. No one comes through camp and has the most peachy, perfect time ever. I've never had a single conflict the entire time I was here. There's always going to be something. And that's what the staff are there for, again, to help coach, talk through roommate agreements that we draft up, with teens, all these different things to help them navigate the nuances of social life in a dorm setting. And we've never changed roommates because two people just didn't get along or something like that. That's just not part of what we do. We really believe in helping teens learn from those experiences, because that's going to come up in college. In my freshman year, roommate did not get along great, but we made it through. So it's all part of the puzzle. All right. Excuse me. We are now going to talk a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of our activities and what a week at camp looks like. And this is also all available online under the 14 section of our website, Your Beyond Akeela Experience. You can see this. The buttons are live too, so you click on them, you'll see more imagery too of each type of activity. And we'll show you some of those here today too. But if you want some more detail after this, we're going to sort of fly through them a little bit here. But as you can see, there's not every single day is going to be the exact same at Beyond Akeela, and that's intentional because not every day when you're in a college setting is going to be the same. Your schedule is going to differ, multiple days a week, and so you can see it's still structured, but there's variation in the days with trips that we go on, and there are some days that there's more, more sort of a set schedule. You can see like the Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule here. Those are the days where it's a pretty consistent schedule for our teens. We have, I think, 6 or 7 of those throughout the summer where they can really know, hey, this is like my daily routine. This is what I know we're going through. We preview this schedule, all the time. Teens will get their own customized version of this, basically, with their activity selections put in so that they know exactly, like they get to camp on Saturday, they know what they're doing next Wednesday and what activity they're doing then, what conversations they're having at that time too. And let's see. Yeah, like I said, we preview these schedules night before every evening activity. Night before, we do, in our evening huddles, morning huddles the day of. There's lots of previewing, so teams always really know what to expect. And we're always encouraging teams to sort of refer back to their schedule too when they have questions so that they can independently solve some of their problems when they have a question about what's going on or what's coming up next. All right, so now we're going to look at some photos of camp in action a little bit here. So these first set are going to be part of our camp activities. We have different options in arts, music, creative writing, Dungeons and Dragons, probably our most popular activity at camp. We set it up in a way that regardless of experience level, it's a great chance to sort of get your feet wet with the game and learn some of the basics of it and do a very mini campaign, character creation, the whole nine. So it's a fun experience for our teens, especially those who maybe haven't done it. Some of the teens who have more experience in it often coach and they help teach it throughout the session too. So it's pretty fun to see the community building through that. We do team sports, wilderness survival, yoga, mindfulness, lots of different activity options. And teams will select 2 different activities essentially throughout the summer. They'll do them each 4 to 5 times while they're at camp. And so it's a good chance to sort of have a nice structured social opportunity with other peers who share similar interests too, because again, everyone's sort of self-selected into these different options here. Community service, a really, really big and important part of our program. We actually just had a webinar last week about how volunteering really does help build job readiness skills. And it's a great sort of launching pad into the workforce for teens. And that's a big part of why we do it. We're choosing opportunities where our teens can really take projects from start to finish. A lot of task initiation projects that we're sort of partnering with different volunteer sites on so that teens can experience some really meaningful work and working with a volunteer coordinator with the same set of 3 to 4 peers. They'll go back to the same site 6 to 7 times throughout the summer and get a real job-like experience and develop workplace relationships. It's a really, really meaningful part of the summer experience, I think, for our teens. just to give you a sense of examples of what we've done in the past for community service opportunities. Libraries are a big one, both on campus or off campus. Animal shelters or farms with animals. We have a lot of animal lovers at camp. Gardens is a big one. Local YMCAs or day camps have been great for us too. So those are the types of things that we typically offer for community service options. And then we also do some that are based on campus and sort of supporting Beyond Akeela a little bit too. So one of those is program planning. So they'll do plan out different like evening activities in camp, including like an end of camp party for everyone. And then also this summer is going to be the first time we have a Beyond Akeela podcast. So we're really looking forward to having teams get a chance to create some of the content, learn about the production and how that all comes together. And again, we're talking about just small projects, taking them from start to finish, and the collaboration and teamwork that comes along with that is a really important stuff for our teams to be practicing. So some of the activities that are more college focused, or what we call our Beyond Akeela curriculum sessions. So we talked about college visits a little bit earlier, but those are something that Foundation Cohort will all do, and everyone has an opportunity to do if they would like to. And then we mentioned the other like sort of workshops that some of the campers in the older cohorts will do. We also do more smaller curriculum sessions for everyone, and these are sort of choice-based. Teams will sort of pick and choose which conversations they want to be a part of. Again, these are not lectures by any means. These are discussions, they're activities. There's always some type of engagement in them or practice built into them as opposed to just sitting down and listening. We also will bring in faculty from our host campus to lead conversations about some of these topics. We're talking about like, navigating social life in college, healthy relationships, managing your time in college, cooking lessons with the head chef. That's always been a super popular one. I think last year they made some really nice, yummy pretzels that I did not get to enjoy, but I heard they were delicious. Resume building with career services. There's just a lot of different things that we'll infuse into those conversations. And again, they're choice-based. So teens are sort of picking and choosing their own path. So if a teen's like, I'm not really sure that I want to be thinking or talking about college right now, I want to think more about workplace stuff, great. There are options for that teen through that's a good way to sort of customize your experience a little bit more through that. Great. And then, this you can see was last summer. That bottom picture is one of the cooking lessons. So they go back into the kitchen, really get to experience what it's like to cook in a campus cafeteria, which is pretty cool. All right, health and wellness. We're getting to our last few slides here, folks. So stick with us. We're almost at the home stretch here. Health and wellness is another important part of college life that we want to infuse into our program, giving teens opportunities to practice just developing healthy exercise routines. And we're not talking about everyone has to be a weightlifter or anything like that. These are opportunities just to be active in one way or another. So swimming, playing a sport like sand volleyball. It was a big hit last summer, all of a sudden. Going to the gym and actually using some of the exercise equipment there. Going for a walk around campus. Anything like that. We just want to give teens opportunities to build those routines into their daily life and just sort of see how it benefits them too. See how they feel after and debrief those feelings with them. Another way we do it, we talk about healthy living habits, is through nutrition. So mentioned earlier, there will be cooking groups in each session, and campers will basically be in groups of 3 to 4 other teens. There'd be a staff member with the group, and they'll plan out multiple meals in which they have to set what their menu is going to be. We're encouraging balanced menus too. We have nutrition conversations as part of this. And then they'll, figure out what their grocery list is. They'll do the grocery run, come back to camp and actually prepare the meal as well. And that's their dinner for the evening. So we've seen some really cool meals come up at camp over the summer. And it's a good chance to just sort of get your feet wet to it. Cooking's like new. It's a good chance to do it in a group setting where you don't have to do everything, but get to sort of pick and choose how you're helping and getting new experiences through it. So that's another, I think, a really fun part of camp for a lot of the teens who do it. And then evening program. So when we wind down our day, we always end our day first with an evening meeting with everyone in camp. It's just a time for us to sort of reset as a community, talk about what went on during that day, what's going to be going on the next day. Certainly if there are like schedule changes or things like that everyone needs to know about. We mentioned that at these types of meetings. But most importantly, it's a time for us to really recognize the accomplishments of people in our communities. Campers do some really awesome things at camp. And this is a chance for some public recognition of that in front of the larger community, both from teens themselves and also from staff as well. So that's a really cool part of the experience. And then we also then will sort of end with a fun evening activity. We do some things on campus like trivia nights and game nights and talent shows, movie nights, campfires. Yes, there is a s'more for everyone at Beyond Akeela for sure. You don't have to have one too if you don't really want one. It's all right. And then we also go off campus for something. So we'll do like mini golf, bowling, as you can see here. Just really sort of fun, low key, informal social opportunities for our teams just to have fun. You know, there's not like a curriculum or structure built into these as much as it's a chance just to hang out with some of your friends in the evening time. And there's this games night here, and then that picture above is from a talent show back in 2018, actually, so one of our earlier summers. And then we also go on outings. So as you guys saw in the sample schedule, those bigger red blocks are times when we go off campus. So we'll do things like hikes. We go to amusement parks, self-guided ropes courses, river kayaking. The college visits are part of our outings as well. Chances to explore different downtown areas. So last year, for example, we went to Northampton, Massachusetts, which is a really cool town, very much a college-y area as well, and a cool downtown place for teens to explore. Brattleboro, Vermont is another small New England town that's a great opportunity for teens to sort of get out and walk around a little bit with some of their camp friends. Yeah, and these are often like choice-based. So I mentioned like an amusement park and river kayaking and ropes course. And if you heard one of those and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. You don't have to. That's a great thing. You can sort of pick and choose which of these you're really interested in, so that you're, again, getting to have the experience that you want. Like for me, I would never choose to go to a self-guided ropes course. I would go support people who don't participate in it, but I will not get up on that tree because that is not my thing. But again, these are some more just images of people enjoying themselves off campus. And last but not least, Boston is a really fun part of our program. We'll spend a few days exploring the city and all that it has to offer. Lots of touristy things, I'm not going to lie. But there's great museums there, great shopping opportunities in little shopping districts like Faneuil Hall Marketplace, the Boylston Street area, Boston Common. We go to the North End. Lots of stuff to do in Boston. We do some college visit opportunities when we're there too. Yeah, go to the aquarium, Museum of Fine Arts, Museum of Science, the zoo. There's lots of fun stuff for us to do when we're in Boston. And it's just a nice, we do it towards the end of the session. It's a nice way to sort of culminate our time together with sharing some really fun experiences around the big city. All right, so that sort of concludes a lot of the informational component. Again, we'll stay on for more questions, as I imagine there may still be some more out there. But in terms of what next steps look like, again, so we were talking, someone had a good question earlier about sort of assessing if this feels like the right fit for your team. So if after this presentation, it's like, hey, it sort of seems like this, we might be in the right wheelhouse here and thinking this could be a good program for our team, reach out. Let's find a time to connect and talk a little bit more about what camp can look like for your team and if it really feels like the right fit. And that's sort of a mutual assessment together before we really jump into the actual application process. And I'll put some of these links in the recording too, so you can sort of see, you can refer back to them after this conversation. But yeah, so the recording is going to come your way probably either tomorrow or the following day. And then last but not least is just applications are open at this point. We enroll on a rolling basis. We do fill, and I feel like it seems like we're filling sooner every year, basically. So if this is something that you feel excited about or interested in for your team, I would definitely consider starting the process pretty quickly here, so that we can get the ball rolling and make sure that you have that spot in our community this summer. So with that sort of ends the presentation component. Again, we're going to stay around for Q&A. If you feel like you've gotten what you need out of this evening, feel free to hop off. But if you're interested in hearing some more Q&A, we will stay on and we'll keep the recording going and finish up with some questions here. So thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Our first question is, how do we support teenagers who may not have specific goals? So how do we help them set goals, and do they have to come up with specific goals during camp?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at camp, we have sort of a skills bank that when we have individual goal conversations with teens, we will refer back to with them. It's also something that we are really encouraging families to talk about with their teens before the summer arrives, so that the family and the teen feel like they're on the same page of what are we hoping to get out of the summer experience. Obviously, fun is, I think, the first and foremost goal for everyone. But then beyond that, when we boil it down, what type of social skills do you want to work on? Is it initiating a conversation? Is it managing your time more effectively? Is it being a stronger self-advocate and speaking up more when you have a concern about something? Those are the things that we're going to drill down a little bit with teens. And so we do have the skills bank so that if a teen really does have a hard time identifying what they're wanting to work on, we can have some, again, like a sort of a bank to work off of with them. But again, it's really important to encourage that conversation at home beforehand, so that your teen feels prepared for that conversation when it happens at camp.
Awesome. Our second question is, if our campers have to room with somebody at camp during their stay at camp.
Yeah, this is a good question. Yeah, so there are roommates. Everyone will have a roommate at Beyond Akeela over the summer. There are rare occasions when we have triples if we have an odd number of people in a certain wing. Yeah, again, it's a really important part of the experience for teens to practice that roommate relationship. And I think it's also important to recognize too that we don't spend the entire day in the dorm, and certainly not the entire day in the dorm rooms. Dorm rooms are primarily for sleeping and other rest or getting ready for the day. Most of the time when we're hanging in the dorm, teens are hanging out in the lounge. Obviously, they're welcome to hang out in their dorm room too, but the social experience of a teen is not determined by their roommate. There's a ton of other people in the community that they're going to interact with in the summer.
Amazing. Our next question is if there is free or quiet time that's built into our schedule.
Yeah, great question. Yes, we don't put that in that sample schedule. It gets very messy if you start to add in all these other little components of our day. But yes, there's a little bit of free time before lunch every day. There's a dedicated rest hour right after lunch. That does not mean that teens have to be in their rooms resting on their beds per se, but it does mean that restful activity is strongly encouraged at that time. If you want to be out in the sun, under a tree or something like that, great. Reading a book, that's a great time to spend that time. Whatever it's going to do to help you recharge. Camp's a long day. It's a lot of socializing. This is a chance to sort of decompress and chill on your own in a way that works for you. Teens will listen to music during that time too, but it's a really important time at camp for everyone. And then there's free time between 5 and 6 each day. That's another time that teens can, we're obviously encouraging some social interaction, but teens are going through routines too and getting ready for dinner. And then our days usually end around 8:15 or so, typically in the evening, with a quick little morning evening huddle. And then really after that, if a teen feels like, hey, I just need, I don't want to be in the lounge tonight. I just need some more chill time. I'm tired. Need to just get ready for tomorrow. Great. That's another great time for them to take that. So it's definitely baked into the day at different times so that teens can have that time to recharge.
Amazing. Our next question is, what are our session dates?
Yeah, so the first session this year is June 24th through July 12th. It's a Saturday to a Wednesday. And the second session is Saturday, July 15th through Wednesday, August 2nd.
Amazing. So our next question is whether bathroom and roommate assignments are based on a camper's biological gender.
Whether they're based on biological gender. Yeah, so certainly in there's the male wing, female wing. Those wings are based on biological gender. In the gender neutral wing, there have been instances where we've had campers with different biological genders in the same room. It's some conversation that we've had with families too, to make sure that they feel really comfortable with that. But that's something that has occurred in the past, at least I think once or twice, basically.
Okay. Our next question is if teenagers are allowed to call their parents during camp.
Yeah, great question. So let's just talk generally about communication and what that looks like. So again, you have the email communication really on a daily basis. Those computers are available to teens every day to email back and forth with home. Teens can set up one phone call with their families. If you happen to have a birthday that falls in the summer months while you're with us at camp, you also can have a birthday call as well, in addition to that other call. Very important. Wouldn't want a birthday to go missed. You also get a special cake like birthday too. Birthdays are really fun at Beyond Akeela, for sure. So that's that scheduled call. We really, that's not because we don't want teens and parents talking to each other. It's that we really want this to feel like an independent experience for the teens, that they're navigating the challenges that they're experiencing in our community independently and not relying on their parents who, in a lot of cases have done a lot for them, over the years. This is a chance to start to practice that independent decision making, independent problem solving for teens. Parents, there's also a head advisor for every cohort. That person is going to be your main point of contact from at a staff level over the summer. We'll provide updates on how your teen is doing at camp, how they're progressing, what those goals are that we're working on with them. And there's at least 3 points of communication with that, followed up with a progress report. There's a summary essentially of their experience at the end, sort of helping you assess, how your team did overall in the summer and areas to continue working on where they were really successful too.
Awesome. Our next question is, are we doing any special activities for the 4th of July, or is it going to be a typical camp day?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's always a little bit special on the 4th. We typically are looking to go out into the community for some type of festival on that day. And so in the past, like Brattleboro has had stuff going on that we've gone into the city for. And then fireworks, for sure are something we seek out for teens so they have an opportunity to do that. We've been really fortunate at Franklin Pierce. There's a great hill on campus and it sort of overlooks a lake, and there are fireworks that go off in the night, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Our next question is if we have a lights out time at when we.
Yeah, great question. So managing sleep schedule is a really important part of growing up and being an adult and managing your life in college. And so there's not a set lights out time. There is a quiet hours. We're asking that teens that the dorm floor is basically, quiet between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. every day. And that does not mean that teens have to go to sleep at that time. It does not mean that teens have to leave the lounge at that time. But it does mean that it needs to be respectful of other people who are trying to get to sleep at that time, basically. But teens are managing their own schedule. And, but if we notice that someone's really dragging, they say, hey, I was up until 1 a.m. last night talking to Tim, and we're going to have a conversation about sleep and managing sleep and making sure that they're, getting the sleep that they need to be energized for the camp days.
Awesome. Our next question is, how are meds handled while the teens are at camp?
Awesome. So we have a registered nurse on staff. All medication has to be held in the health center, state regulation. And so the meds are basically there's a pill packaging company that we work with. It's called PackMyRx. So we ask that families send any prescriptions, any over-the-counter vitamins, supplements that teens take, anything really gets sent through PackMyRx. They send it to us and our nurse in a really easy to dispense way. So simple that someone like me who has no medical background or medical education could do it. And then there's a lot of communication between the families and the parent and the nurse once we get the medication to make sure, hey, this is what you said was coming. This is what we have. Are we matching here? Is this what is current? And then the nurse will be at every meal, or the nurse intern, who's a student nurse, will be at every meal. There's a snack med pass too. And then also in the evening, teens will go to the health center to get their medication. But teens are always responsible for going to the nurse to get their meds, as opposed to the nurse walking around and handing out meds. That's, again, a part of the experience. We want teens to have they have to remember to go get their medication. They have to know when these things are happening and practice that in our setting. Obviously, we're going to make sure that teens get their meds too, though. So if it is an instance where someone does not come at the right time, we're going to make sure that they get their med when they need it.
Awesome. And our final question on chat right now is what the cost of the program is.
Yeah, so the cost per session is $7,820. We do have scholarships that we work with. One's called Camp Launcher. They provide need-based scholarship opportunities for families. We also have our own scholarship allocation that we allocate based on individual conversations with families to meet their needs. But yeah, so that's what tuition is. There's also payment plans if you'd like to spread that payment out. It's not all due up front by any means. And say that. I think that covers it. It includes everything at Beyond Akeela. So we're not the camp where there's this add-on cost for this trip or this experience or that. It's really the camp tuition and then transportation to and from Boston, basically, or camp directly, and we take care of the rest. So, all right.
Okay, that was our last question on chat.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Those are some great questions, everyone. I really appreciate all of your time today and this evening, and taking some time to get to know Beyond Akeela a little bit more. Like I said, we'll be in touch in the next day or so with the recording that we'll send out to you along with some other links, and look forward to having some conversations with you all about Beyond Akeela in the coming weeks here. All right, so thank you. Have a great night.